have distinguished panelists in this. Mr. Nalin Shinghal, CMD, Bharat Electronics, Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited, BHEL. Alka Mittal, CMD, ONGC Limited. Mr. Shrikant Madhav Vaidya, Chairman, IOCL. And finally, Mr. Mohit Bhargava, CEO, Ntpc, Renewable Energy Limited, joining us. Please give a big round of applause for the panel discussion. CMD's Roundtable, PSUs at 75, Azadi Kambat Mahotsav. May I request Mr. Nalin Shinghal, Chairman and Managing Director, Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited. Please do join on the dais, sir. Please, most welcome. Ma'am Alka Mittal, Chairman and Managing Director of ONGC Limited. Ma'am, please do join the dais as part of the panel discussion. Mr. Shrikant Madhav Vaidya, Chairman, IOCL Limited. Please do join the panel discussion, sir. And last but not least, Mr. Mohit Bhargava, Chief Executive Officer, Ntpc, Renewable Energy Limited. Sir, please, most welcome. Please do join. Sir, of course, we all know that you are the pioneers, leaders, green energy in the country, and reputed institutions under Government of India. And we will simplify this today's panel discussion with one question with multiple agendas in one. I'll try to close that, beginning with the biggest company, the BHEL. Sir, of course, in terms of revenues and all, I know that, but in terms of the old age, of course, I've done my homework, research, so the credit goes to you definitely, BHEL. Sir, my first question and last question also. Institutions have a mandate under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. PSUs are aligning digital technologies with their strategies for their priorities to achieve goals in the next few years. I would like to know your goals, your priorities under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav at 75 India. Please.
Thank you. You see, it's not just at 75, it's beyond. First, let me say we are today looking at 2047 also. So what has happened today is that we are now looking as to where we should be in the next 25 years. This is the starting point. And in that sense, the target given is to be globally competitive and to have the latest technologies, working in the latest technologies. So if you come down to specifically where we are, digital is one major thing. So, IIoT, your service industry, the remote monitoring, diagnostics, then of course, basic thing, paperless and e-office, those become hygiene factors today. They have already happened. Then in terms of, your getting e-enablement of people. Ultimately, organization is people. So you are IT enabled only if the people have that bent of mind, that understanding, move forward technology front. So that's one part. And coming to specific business areas, we have been the largest, thermal power company. In fact, we started Make in India some 6 decades ago when we were the first company manufacturing in India. And today, when the entire paradigm is shifting, but we are seeing, but for India, you see, for the future, coal is going to be there. While the world may say no coal, India cannot. With our reserves, with our need to import anything other than coal. So we are going from coal to clean coal. That's a major initiative. So, developing clean coal technologies. We have the advanced ultra supercritical technology, the latest technology which is developed in collaboration with Ntpc, with IGCAR. Then we are looking at gasification, coal gasification in a major way. So because the future we are looking at our reserves would be gasification, coal to chemical. So those are the sort of business areas. Then of course, diversification into the, under Make in India, diversification into defense, railways. These are all very major areas which are opening up, and we are trying to ensure that, our role stays relevant and we stay ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for a very diplomatic answer, sir. So I'll go to Mr. Shrikant, sir. Sir, the same question. Your priorities for the institutional aligning digital technology with Azadi ka Mahotsav special occasion.
Well, Indian Oil currently is supplying about 50% of the energy needs of the country. So obviously one of the main priorities, the main mandate of Indian Oil is to provide the energy security for the country. And today, our energy consumption as a country from petroleum side, I'm saying it's about 5.1 million barrels per day, the refining capacity. And going by all estimates, we'll be touching about 9 million barrels per day by 2040. So primary energy growth of the country is in the range of 3.3% per annum, which is negative in Europe and USA. So obviously the priorities and the challenges India faces is different from what the West is facing. Our first and foremost thing is to provide energy security, and our ambitious, we are an aspirational economy, targeting 5 trillion by 25 and 10 trillion by 2030. Obviously, this economic growth is going to consist of a lot of energy consumption. Having said that, it is also very clear that apart from the conventional fossil fuels, that is going to be the major part of the energy bouquet, it will not be only one form of energy that will fuel this country's aspirational consumption. There's going to be space for all forms of fuel. So from what I see, apart from the conventional fuels, biofuels will play a very increasing role in fulfilling the energy needs of the country. And biofuels, when I mean biofuels, I mean ethanol, I mean compressed biogas. And these two fuels are such, they prime up the entire economy. Once you have a biogas plant, it not only takes care of the agricultural waste, municipal solid waste, it also generates employment, and it is a clean fuel. So biofuels will be an increasing factor in this particular thing. And coming down to the competitiveness, we eat an Indian Oil at our R&D, we're working out with very different type of processes, different type of bacteria for the bioprocess to have a better yield. And today I'm very happy to share that the yield of biogas from the Indian Oil technology is about 15%, which is around 10% max for the other technologies available. Then we also get biomanure from this particular process. And today the country, by use of chemical fertilizers, the organic carbon content in the soil is depleting very badly. So this Satat scheme, what we have, it not only gives biogas as a green fuel, but it also gives biomanure, which is extremely rich in organic carbon. So I think that is the reason I'm saying that bioenergy will be a game-changing option for India. And as Indian Oil, we are making all efforts to increase the yield of both of them so that we reduce our import dependence. So whatever we produce through biogas, bioethanol, it directly affects the import reduction. And today we are about 87% in import. We have to do it, the country's demand is there, but then by these other forms, whatever we can do, we can reduce the import dependence to the extent possible. One more area that we are into it very severely is that of green hydrogen. I firmly believe that hydrogen is a fuel for the future. And at Indian Oil, we are progressively doing different pathways to generate green hydrogen. One is the pathways of electrolysis, which we all know, that is splitting of water. But then even from biogas, even from natural gas, if I can reform it and separate the hydrogen, there will be different pathways to produce hydrogen. And then that also is a technology that we are developing in our R&D center at Faridabad. And I'm extremely sure that we'll be coming out with something which will be revolutionary in the days to come, because the country needs all forms of energy from all sources of energy. So green hydrogen will be one big foray. And apart from that, of course, renewables. I'll not talk much on that because that is all being said. So whatever our Prime Minister has promised, a net zero by 2070, the petroleum industry, it will grow. Obviously, it is going to grow because the country's demands are going. But these other forms of energy, like what I said, biofuels, ethanol, biogas, green hydrogen, they will go on playing an increasingly important part in the days and years to come. About battery, I can say that electric vehicles also will be coming. Of course, they will not be threatening the IC engines so quickly as far as India is concerned. But then we have made our footprints along with an Israeli startup called Finergy, wherein we'll be using aluminum air battery. And why we chose aluminum? Because aluminum is abundantly available in the country. In fact, we are the largest producer of aluminum. So instead of relying on the conventional lithium, which is again an imported substance, we'll be setting up aluminum air batteries in the country. All field trials are on. Some of the automotive companies have already sent their vehicles to Tel Aviv in Israel. So very shortly, once the field results are actually validated, we'll be setting up the aluminum air battery in the country. So what I'm trying to say, as Indian Oil, we are putting our footprints in all the forms of energy. And as and when the time is opportune, we will ramp up the capacities of these and ensure that whatever the net zero targets are there, they will certainly be met. As far as technology is concerned, I can only say that one of the low-hanging fruit is to improve the efficiency for reducing our net carbon emissions. So we are making a lot of investments in this sector also to improve the energy efficiency of our operations, because refineries are conventionally very high CO2 producing industry by virtue of the type of the industry. So we are trying to be as efficient as possible so that we are able to reduce the CO2 emissions, at least in the scope 1 and 2, that is during the manufacturing of these products. So all in all, our canvas is all well set, well planned out, so that we are able to achieve the target of 2070, what the country has promised itself. But as a company, we will achieve this target much before than that. I think that's the plan.
Thank you very much, sir. Ma'am, over to you. If you can elaborate your organization's strategy and priorities under these two pillars.
A very good evening to all, and it's a pleasure to be here. And at the fag end of the day, I think a lot has been talked about technology. I was being told that in the previous sessions, a detailed discussion has happened on IT and how we are using technology to go ahead. I'll just begin with how ONGC, what is our business? We are the national oil company of the country and responsible for, in fact, our story begins a little before Mr. Vaidya's begins. We look for oil and gas. We explore for oil and gas in different parts of the country. And not only the country, we go over, through our overseas arm, we are going overseas too. So idea is to explore more and more, cover the entire domain within the country so that we are able to meet the energy requirements of our country. And in that effort, we are using technology to the maximum possible. We have, earlier we were using 2D, 3D survey. Now we have 3C, 4C, ocean bottom node technology that is being used to find out, to gain a better understanding of the subsurface. And that is what gives us the confidence that these are the areas where we can go for further drilling, exploratory, as well as development. And once that happens, we are able to add a little more to the kitty of the nation when it comes to the crude oil and gas. As the Prime Minister and our own Minister has set the target for us to achieve targets by 24-25 of having more and more gas produced. And also, not only that, we are also looking at 2030 when we'll be contributing to the maximum possible towards taking India to the share of the gas in the energy basket to 15%. So for that, getting the best of technology, going overseas, understanding what technological advances are there, what possibilities are there, is something we are looking at. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what I would like to add here is just 15 days back, our Director Exploration and Director Technology and Field Services was in Houston, and they were attending there was this international conference on offshore technologies. Idea was to understand what are the possibilities that could, possible technologies that could be got to our country at the best possible speed, so that we are able to contribute more and more towards energy efficiency. So while we are talking about digital transformation, and we have, I think a colleague of mine was here in the earlier in the forenoon session where we talked about how we are going for SAP for HANA and how we are having a digital center of excellence. I would just like to add a little to our efforts that we have made in this regard. And for that, I would like to just talk about how, being an energy company, we are looking at not only innovation and technological development, which is very essential, along with capital efficiency, because every penny we spend comes from our shareholders, and it's public fund that we are utilizing. So we also look at how we are able to decarbonize the entire value chain of hydrocarbons. And for that, wherever we are able to check our emissions, we are able to look at reducing our dependence on power, we are doing our best. And we are also collaborating with other institutions just to ensure that we make headway. ONGC, in fact, reached out to numerous international majors for collaboration in different domains. And we have signed MOUs not only for oil and gas production enhancement, we have also signed MOUs for offshore wind technology, for partnering with Equinor and ExxonMobil in different domains, just to ensure that we are able to collaborate and move forward. Because our effort is not only to target the conventional sources of energy, but to look at the non-conventional ones also, and especially the green ones. And I take lots of pride in sharing with you all that we are not looking at easy solutions. We are looking at a little difficult ones as well. We are looking at going for geothermal energy in Ladakh. A tough call taken by ONGC with lots of conviction. We are likely to be drilling for geothermal energy in Ladakh, and that too, it should happen in this weather window. We have partnered with ISOR from Iceland. Let's see how we are able to, what we are able to achieve during this weather window, but we are very confident. We are keeping our fingers crossed on that. And coming to, we are also looking at, our overseas arm, the ONGC Videsh Limited, is looking at partnering with, venturing into different countries, different areas. They are already present in, they already have 18 projects going on overseas, but they are looking at more. And let's see how things take shape over in the times to come. But we are very hopeful, and we are confident that we'll keep the energy levels in our country good. And I think together all of us can commit that is the future, that is the way the future growth story of our country will be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure with the collective effort of the bigwigs, and I'm sure we'll achieve positive energy. Over to Mr. Mohit Bhargava, Chief Executive Officer, Ntpc Renewable Energy Limited. Please.
Yeah, good evening, and thanks to the ET team for having me here. I think a lot has already been said in terms of what the aspirational targets and what the country needs. So you actually have a very power-packed panel here, all the Maharatnas sitting here, represented here on the energy side. So our mandate, if I may say so, is not just what is written down somewhere or something. Is guided by what the government is thinking, is guided by what our commitments are made at the international level. So quickly, if we refer to what the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned at COP, the Amrit. So those are the broad mandates in which we are operating. And I represent Ntpc. For people who are not aware, I'll just take a leaf from what Mr. Vaidya said. We supply nearly 25% of India's electricity. And this is something which has become very integral to everyone's lives now. I mean, for us, people sitting in the room and people working outside, it's probably unthinkable today that how to make ends meet without electricity. But the larger goal is, when we talk about net zero in 2070, reducing our carbon footprint by, carbon dioxide emissions by 1 billion tons within the next 8 years, having a non-fossil capacity of 500 gigawatts by 2030. So these are, hard, concrete targets which we are part of and which we need to develop. So at NTPC, we today have 69 gigawatts of generating capacity, largely coal-based, some gas, some hydro, and a very small portion renewables. This we are planning to turn around. So in the next 10 years, what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually have almost an equal size renewable capacity, which we have in terms of coal-based capacity today. So that for us is how transition or energy transition is happening. But another point I think which Mr. Vaidya mentioned is also the fact that for India to meet its requirements, fossil fuel will be a large player. Similarly, on the power generation side, coal will continue to play a very large role over the next 25, 30 years, which is why we are not abandoning coal. We are ensuring that our power generation capacity remains highest. Just a quick data number for you guys, and I was mentioning this to the CMDs earlier. This year, the power generation growth is 15%. This is on top of 10% last year at national level. At NTPC, we did over 15% last year, and we are doing again around 15% this year. So this is how New India is looking at. New India is looking at growth. New India is looking at how we can meet our aspirational requirements. New India needs more energy to consume. But New India also needs energy that is clean to the extent possible. India is, for example, moving in a direction which has been set for us by ourselves. We cannot be aping what, for example, Europe is doing or someone else is doing, because for them, they had natural gas. And for those of you who are following now, they are in a serious problem, of course. But their economy was based on natural gas. So for them, it's an issue how to make natural gas available. In our case, coal becomes the cheapest available source for us. So that has been the bedrock of how we are growing. But going forward, it's a no-brainer that a lot of capacity will happen on the renewable side. So while we have been competing in the market, we have been winning the bids, we are developing coal-based capacity. We hope to have a 60 gigawatt renewable capacity by 2032. But a lot of this capacity will actually move towards not only meeting the power requirements, this will also move towards, for example, producing green hydrogen. So when we're talking about energy transition at a national scale, it's not just energy transition of NTPC or Indian Oil or BHEL, it's energy transition for the country. So we have to look at how we can help reduce the emissions from sectors which are traditionally very difficult. So for example, if you look at fertilizer sector, steel sector, cement sector, aviation transport. So these are sectors where emission reduction is a major challenge. Green hydrogen is supposed to be one of the major things which will help make that happen. Today, the cost differential is significant. In next 5 to 6 years, this will come down significantly. So if I quickly run down on what we are looking at in terms of broad numbers, we have almost close to 10 gigawatt of capacity, renewable capacity pipeline. This is other than what we are doing on the coal-based side. Our aim is to create solutions which will provide reliable, round-the-clock green power. So we are looking at providing renewable energy on round-the-clock basis. And we are in discussions with major clients who are willing to convert on a long-term basis. So I understand many of the Indian companies also have set for themselves net zero targets of 2030, 2040, 2050. So all of them are looking to source energy in a responsible, sustainable manner. That is where we come in. So a lot of our product offerings going forward would be in terms of renewable power on a round-the-clock basis. This will happen when we do renewable like solar, wind on a large scale, and as well as look at storage solutions on a large scale. So that is one end. By the end of the decade, we also expect that green hydrogen will become a major source of energy. And this is where we have already started pilots in terms of what we are doing in Ladakh. We have started a pilot in Gujarat. The idea is that how we can use green hydrogen towards mobility, how we can use green hydrogen for blending with natural gas. It can be easily done. So if I have to talk about the 2 or 3 pillars of how NTPC is looking at energy transition, one of course is renewable energy capacity scaling up aggressively. 2 is how we can decarbonize our existing plants. And one of the typical experiments or the pilot studies which we are doing is using renewable power to produce green hydrogen, capturing carbon dioxide from our power plant, combining both to produce green methanol. As a fuel, this can be a major benefit to the country as a whole, So it actually combines the three major things which are essential for energy transition: green power, carbon capture, and producing and using green hydrogen to produce a fuel which is totally green. So we are quite hopeful that this will also take us forward. And third pillar, of course, is energy efficiency. I don't want to spend time there because that was already covered by one of the earlier speakers. So these are the three major buckets in which NTPC will move forward on the in terms of energy transition. Needless to say, and I don't want to waste time here on the digital side, because all of these require digital support. Today, for all of us, digital means quite different thing. For example, my 85-year-old father, for him, digital is sending a WhatsApp message. So he's quite happy doing that. He feels very happy doing that, and we are also quite happy that he can do that. But at a company level, digitalization is moving not only from creating solutions which, as employees, as vendors, we are all part of that solution. We are looking at how we can provide digitalization in terms of increasing our productivity. So when we are talking about increasing, for example, creating a situation where my coal-based plant can come down to a 40% level in terms of PLF at any given point of time, which is normally not possible. Digitalization kicks in, because then we need not human intervention, but clear computerized intervention to see what mill goes in, what mills come out, what kind of airflow has to be maintained. So that's the other bucket. So digitalization for us is and I'm not talking about work from home or work from anywhere. I think a lot of push to digitalization happened because of COVID, and I think all of us agree that, because probably a lot of things were moving, but COVID hastened all that. So we have e-files, we have Teams meeting, we have Zoom meeting, and so on and so forth. So digitalization underlines the growth and the transition profile which NTPC is having. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. A big round of applause to all our panelists on the dais, please. With this, we conclude today's panel discussion, CMDs Roundtable, PSUs at 75 Azadi Amrit Mahotsav. On behalf of the Economic Times, I sincerely thank Mr. Nalin Shinghal, CMD BHEL, Alka Mittal, CMD ONGC, Mr. Shrikant, Madhav, Vaidya, Chairman IOCL, Mr. Mohit, Bhargava, CEO Ntpc Renewable Energy Limited. Thank you very much, sir, for joining and sharing your deep insight.